Hello there, in today's video we're going to talk about some of the problems with photography on YouTube. Some that you might not be aware of, but have a big effect on us all. Just to be clear, there is no problem with photography itself. Photography is more exciting than ever with so many different genres to explore. I just don't think there's ever been a better time to pick up a camera and start taking some pictures. Now, as some of you know, I recently launched the Raw Room. It's a new online platform that I've built and it already contains over 45 lessons and 12 hours of tutorial content and includes the full landscape photography masterclass. Now, I've created this not out of greed or anything silly like that, but out of a response to one of the big problems with photography on YouTube. So let's start by taking a look at how YouTube works. YouTube is great in so many ways, but it's essentially a kind of dysfunctional threesome where the involved parties are often pulling in different directions. Now let's look at this. Firstly, and most importantly in my opinion, we have you, the viewer. Without you and your time, literally the whole thing would fall down and not work. Secondly, we have creators, people like me, who work insanely hard to create content that you're going to watch and engage with. Thirdly, we have the advertisers, the companies and individuals that pay for the ad that you skipped through at the start of this video. They provide the money that makes the whole system possible. On the surface of it, it seems like a really natural kind of symbiotic relationship that works really well. But when we start to look under the surface, just a little bit, things start to get sticky. Now, many years ago, a new website launched. It was simple, it was clean, it loaded quickly on our dial-up internet, and it made browsing the internet just much easier. The word Google very quickly entered into our culture and became the homepage for pretty much everybody out there. Then a few years later, another website launched, and it let us connect with long-lost friends and family and share the most important moments of our life. As smartphones started to find their way into all of our pockets, Facebook became one of the must-have apps for everyone, young and old. Now, what Google and Facebook have done is truly extraordinary. They have created a commodity that we didn't even know existed. We relished the free stuff that they offered us, like email, like search and messengers. And in return, we gave away the most valuable thing in the world, our data, our privacy, and our personal details. Now, a lot of the time that's fine, but we did it without really realizing. And what Facebook and Google then do is sell your data to make money from advertising and marketing. Let me give you an example. Say if I was still doing wedding photography. The key to being a really good wedding photographer is actually just to get yourself out there, to get yourself known so you can actually win the clients. And Facebook makes this really easy. I can create an advert on Facebook with some amazing pictures, and then I can use the data that Facebook gives me access to target, say, people in North London who were recently engaged within the last 3 or 6 months and who have a household income of over £75,000. It's scarily powerful. So ask yourself, is that the kind of information you want a company to have just because you've shared your happy news with a few friends on Facebook? Maybe it is. Maybe you end up scrolling through your feed, you come across a photographer, and you end up getting some really nice pictures of your wedding. In that sort of case, it might work out for everybody. But we are starting to be really concerned about the devices that we're introducing into our life that are potentially even listening to the conversations we're having. So how does YouTube fit into this? Well, as you know, YouTube is owned by Google, and therefore the system is built on data gathering and advertising. YouTube knows what type of content you watch and what you search for, and it will therefore feed you the content and the advertising that it thinks will generate the most revenue. Your free content is not really free. YouTube thinks it knows what type of content you like better than you do. Now, the effect this has on creators then has an effect on you, because in YouTube land, views equal money. And to increase the number of views a channel gets, you need to increase the amount of watch time it gets. So that means creating content that is going to keep you engaged for as long as possible, and I need you to watch the videos thousands and thousands of times in order to make any money. Here lies the biggest problem of all. The system encourages creators to chase views. It causes us to manipulate our content to get the views in. It compromises things. It makes the quality of the content not as good. I mean, how many more videos can we watch that have 7 easy ways to improve your photography? Now, I've been guilty of this in the past, but it's just fluff content designed to get views. Photography is not easy. It's difficult and it's hard, it's challenging, and that's what makes it so great. It's about as much about hard work and practice as it is about easy photography hacks. I actually really feel for some of the really big American photography channels because they get lambasted week after week for and being accused of creating clickbait titles. And it's just a product of the views equals money system that YouTube provides, because their businesses have got quite big, they've got big channels. And if those views stop coming in for whatever reason, then their businesses suffer and they can't put food on their table. So they need to maintain those views to maintain that money that they need to survive. Surely that's not what we want. Surely we want YouTube to be a place for photographers to create fresh and interesting content that inspires us and makes us think. Surely we want a pathway to be there for you to start a channel today and potentially become a really big YouTuber who's professional and creates content that people love. I think with the way the system is at the moment and the way it's going, I'm very concerned about it because I'm not sure that pathway exists. We're going to end up with just people creating this fluff content that isn't particularly great. Or we might end up with small YouTubers who are fantastic, but they're not getting discovered and they have no way of ever growing, so they give up. Or we end up with people who come into YouTube with a load of money behind them and just end up flogging stuff to us all the time and using it as purely as a marketing tool. For my channel, I've always tried so hard to, before anything else, make content that provides value for you. Yes, at times I've used it for marketing, but I need to make a living. Hopefully my actions have shown this, because when I review a camera, those videos do very, very well. They get hundreds of thousands of views at times, and they generate a little bit more revenue than some of the other videos. Now, if I'd followed YouTube's system and just done that all the time, which is kind of what YouTube is asking for, then I would have made a lot more money and I would have probably ended up having 10 times the number of subscribers that I have now. But I don't do that because I don't think doing that every week necessarily brings you any value. I want to talk about the art of photography as much as I talk about technical gear and stuff. Another big problem with photography on YouTube is the educational content. Now, yes, there is a lot of great educational content on YouTube, but part of the problem is that anybody can create. Anybody can put a video up and claim to be an expert. And what I found when I was a police officer and when I was doing training is that sometimes the first thing that people hear is what they end up believing, even when it's wrong. But I think as someone that teaches photography, it's really important to get things accurate and correct, especially around the kind of objective technical aspects of photography. What also happens over time is that the great educational content ends up getting buried, so it never appears in your feed and it becomes really difficult to find as well. Secondly is the depth of the educational content. So to have a successful video on YouTube, it needs to be snappy and concise, and you end up leaving things out, particularly the details. Now, I recently created my landscape photography masterclass, and that's 7 hours of content. And it's over a number of videos, some short, some really long. And that just wouldn't work on YouTube because I've had to invest a sort of 5-figure sum to create that piece of work. And it wouldn't do well on YouTube and it wouldn't generate me any revenue because it's a resource designed to be dipped in and out of over time. And that's not the kind of viewing that YouTube wants. The problem is I want you to see that content. There's the whole point in me making it. But if it harms my channel, I don't make any money. And I need to, as someone that does this full time now, I need to make a living to keep a roof over my head and to feed my children. So even for me as a relatively well-established YouTuber, I see that I've got 3 options moving forward because my current financial situation is just unsustainable. So firstly, is just to stop doing YouTube. Do more commercial photography or just get a normal job where I will end up making a lot more money, because YouTube makes me barely any money and I dread to think how much time and of my own funds I've poured into it. Now, the second option is to do more sponsored videos where virtually every video is sponsored, and then I also flog you unaffordable workshops and do an annual calendar. Now, that's really not an appealing option for me because apart from being accused of selling out with my recent diagnosis of impending blindness, it's not really a viable option for me moving forward. Now, the third option was to create the Raw Room, a place that's free of the data mining and advertising world of YouTube, a place where the content is high quality and detailed and I don't need to worry whether a video is short or long. I'm not concerned about that algorithm whatsoever. Now, I genuinely think the Raw Room and my YouTube channel will work really well together because I can have the inspirational, adventurous vlogs on the YouTube channel, which are essentially the what and the why, and then put the how into the Raw Room. And yes, it is putting it behind a paywall, but I think at $5.99 a month, I've tried to make it as affordable as humanly possible while still being viable for my business. If the Raw Room does well, it'll mean that I won't have to have any sponsored videos on the YouTube channel. I'll just be free to create the type of content I want to create without concern about views and making money on YouTube. Now, I would love you to check out the Raw Room, and I think for $5.99 a month, it's exceptional value, especially because it contains the full landscape photography masterclass. Just this week, I've dropped in 3 new tutorials. I definitely don't have any expectation on you to subscribe, and I'm certainly not complaining or asking for any sympathy or charity. Option 1 of stopping doing YouTube, there's actually some things about that are extremely appealing. I hope that's not the case though, but regardless, I would just really encourage you to look beyond YouTube as you extend your photography journey. Whether you join the Raw Room or not, it doesn't really matter, but look at a book, go on a photography tour, go to a gallery, just absorb the art of photography as much as you can. Because I think by moving beyond just YouTube, it will benefit you as a photographer and improve your photography all around.